fun times sending out video. Okay, I think that's gonna be good. Cool, perfect. All right, welcome to DIY Live. I'm just going to start talking about what, while we're waiting for people to join, what materials and things to make sure that you have on hand for this class. So we're going to be making this chalkboard hanger. So we have some trim pieces, we've got a back piece that's chalk, the chalkboard part, and then we have these hangers in the bottom. So it's kind of optional to you if you want to actually do the hanger part or not. So you could not do that as well, just to have a chalkboard. And then you're going to have a hanger on the back. So that could look a little bit differently than this sawtooth hanger, but we'll talk about that later. So this is what we're making today, chalkboard hanger. And so what else do we want? If you have, if anyone's here yet, I might just wait. I'm just going to start sanding pieces. As always, whenever you cut all your pieces, you're going to have possibly little burrs on the ends, so you just want to just quickly take those off with your sandpaper. This is a sanding sponge, there's a sponge part and sandpaper, or you can use a power sander, a little faster. Just kind of really quick, just take off the burrs. So you don't really need to sand the face of your pieces, but if you do, you want to make sure you're sanding along with the grain. So on this piece, the grain's running this way, not that way. So you want to make sure you're sanding in this direction. If you want to sand the face a little bit, I'm not going to do too much, just so we can get going on the project. Just get my cut ends sanded off so I don't get any splinters. And so it's a lot easier to do this now and not later once it's put together. Alright, and if you're joining me live, maybe if you could make a comment and say who you are, because I can't on the video. I have this on my phone, so I can't see. I can see how many people are viewing, but I can't see who you are. And just let me know if you're building as well. So if I'm going too fast or whatever, you have a question about something, just let me know in the comments. All right, so I got all of my trim pieces sanded on the edges. I'll just quickly sand my back piece. So I recommended, if your back piece doesn't look like this, it's okay. I just had recommended to get your chalkboard part painted before we build this, because then you won't have to mask your project off twice to paint it later. So ideally, if you haven't done your chalkboard part yet, you can kind of see I've got a little bit of gray down here, so that's a primer. So on this I put a primer on, and then I put the chalkboard paint, and I did a couple layers of the chalkboard paint. So that's just always a good rule of thumb, is to prime a bare wood surface before you paint it. So it's not always as necessary for interior projects, but it'll just help it hold up a little bit better and help the paint stick. So on this one, I already did the primer and I put my chalkboard coat on. If you're not there, we'll talk about that later and how you can paint your project, both the back and the trim pieces, separately in 2 stages. So I'm just going to make sure that when I'm sanding, I'm just getting just these edges a little bit smoother so they don't, not going to like get slivers. And you can see too how I painted this. I didn't paint all the way to the edges because the trim pieces are going to cover that up. So you can save a little bit of paint that way. So if you're just watching right now and you're going to build later, that's a tip. Pre-paint your chalkboard part first. Okay, so that is done. So we got that, we got our side pieces. So now you're going to figure out, probably doesn't really matter which is the top and the bottom, but you're going to have your chalkboard face up, and then you're going to lay out your pieces of wood, make sure you know what's going where, and then you can look at which piece you want to be the front versus the back. So maybe if you have some knot, if you really like knots in the wood and you want to see like there's this one's got a knot right here, then, and you're going to maybe stain it or clear coat it, then kind of look at what the face of the wood looks like a little bit more. So versus just painting it. If you paint it, it doesn't really matter as much which goes forward. So I'm going to put, this one's got some knots in it, I'm going to put that facing forward or facing outward. And like this piece, this one side looks like that, and then this side's pretty, this has actually got like some kind of voids where there's no wood. So even if you paint that, you'd have to fill that in. So that would just be a lot more work to paint. So I'm going to put that on the back side and then use this as the front side. And then let's see, this one's got some cool knots. I'm going to put those forward. Let's see, let's put those over here. It's always good to lay things out, just kind of see what you like and the patterns of the wood. All right, so I got my, oh good, cool, I think you can see this too. So I have my frame laid out where I want it to go, and make sure, I gotta figure out where I'm gonna glue, so I'm gonna do some gluing. So I'm going to use wood glue. This is always the fun part of the day, is getting the glue ready. If you know of any good tips for storing glue that's not always hard to get open, let me know. So you're going to want to get your glue ready and open, and then you're going to want to get your nails ready and your hammer. Ooh, and that came off. Okay, I think we're good on the glue. I'm going to get my hammer and nails. So I'm using, I gotta see what, I can't remember what thickness this plywood was. I think it's 3/8. Yeah, it looks like it's 3/8. So I'm using 3/8 plywood, and then I'm using 1x4 trim pieces, which is actually 3/4 of an inch thick. So my total thickness is 3/4 plus 3/8. So just fun construction math. So I won't explain all that right now, but 3/4 plus 3/8 is 1 1/8. So you want to make sure your nails are shorter than 1 1/8 inch, so they don't poke out the backside. If they're longer, then you can cut them off. I got friends visiting. Friends.
Family.
Family. Yeah, actually family. No friends visiting. It's just my boyfriend and his daughter. So, so they just showed up. Okay. We like to joke around and say we're good friends. So anyway, that's that joke. Okay. They always distract me when I'm doing this stuff. Anyway, good times. Good to be with people while we're in quarantine. So, okay, back to the project. So we have our total thickness, again, is, if you're using 3/8 plywood, is 1 1/8. If you're using a 1/4 inch thick plywood, which you could also work, you can use, then that total would be 1 inch. So you wouldn't want your nails to be longer than 1 inch. So I have 1 inch nails. These guys, That's what I'm going to use. You could use screws as well, and you could also clamp and screw a nail from the backside so you don't see your nails, but I don't really mind the look of nail heads. So before you start nailing, before you start gluing, you can pre-drill your holes for your nails if you want. I'm not going to on this project because these nails, the diameter of the nail is pretty thin already, and so it doesn't really have a high likelihood of splitting the wood. So I'm just going to start my nails and go for it without pre-drilling, and I'm going to just make sure that when I put my nail in the wood that it's like not too, I don't know if you can see that, it's not too close to the edge. So I'll show you when I get them set in. So just kind of inset them. We got lots of space. Generally you're going to want to put your nails close to the corner. So I would say, like somewhere, maybe a couple inches in. So if you want to use your tape measure and measure 2 inches in from each side and start 2 nails in each of your pieces of wood, then that could be a great option. Or you can I'm just going to eyeball it, and that'll go a little bit faster. So for this kind of project, it doesn't really matter exactly where they are unless you're going to like stain it. So if you're going to stain it, I would say maybe measure if you like want everything exactly lined up. But I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to paint it later. And so I'm just going to start my nails. So I'll show you these two before I get along too far. So I've got 2 nails started about 2 inches in from the edge, and they're not, so they're far away from this edge, and they're just set in from the top and the bottom of the piece. So I'm going to do 2 nails on this side, 2 nails on that side, and I'm going to repeat that for the other 3 pieces. Don't hit your thumb, that hurts. Like we use, one trick I like to use, especially if you're working on this project with kids and you're the one holding the nail, is use pliers to hold the nail. It can be tricky to do that and then then hammer. So if the nail's longer, like this isn't too short for me, but obviously I just hit my thumb a little bit. So if you want to avoid possibly hitting your fingers, maybe use pliers to help hold the nail. So I have 1 board done. So this is what 1 board looks like. And then I'm going to do the other 3. And the reason I start my nails before I put the glue on is once you put glue on, the wood likes to move around a lot. And so if you're trying to get your nails all the way through to connect the wood together, then they can often not quite be in the right place that you want it. So if you get the nail going and it's almost all the way through but not quite, so you can see it's not poking, they're not poking through the backside. So that way it just kind of helps you put your project together. I always want to try to get your nails going in straight. Sometimes you don't want to cooperate. So you can always take them out and start over. All right, one more. Okay, so I have all of my pieces, the nails started. So now I'm going to add my glue. I'm going to make sure I'm going to reposition them, all the pieces of wood, and make sure they're about where they need to be. Okay. And then I'm going to take some glue in the back, not too much, just enough. I'm just going to put some on the back, maybe not put it too close to the edges. So, about that much. This is nice if you have a helper to help you line everything up. So I'm just making sure my edges are flush. Or close to flush. If it's not quite perfect, it's okay. And if you want, another tip is to grab a clamp, and you can clamp their two boards together before you nail them together. So especially if you're working solo, this could be a good idea. So I'm just going to start my nails. So I'm not going to nail them quite all the way in yet, just to make sure that in case I have to take it out, I can. But I'm attaching the two pieces. Oh, or not yet. Not quite yet. Thought I was. There we go, okay. Almost need to go all the way. Okay, never mind, might just have to go all the way. Normally you can just kind of go almost all the way. I'm going to grab my clamp. I can show you that. Okay, so I'm going to clamp. Okay. That way your wood doesn't move around on you, so. We'll just go all the way. I'm going to leave the other two nails out though, just in case we want to reposition them. Alright, and then I'm going to go and put my side pieces on. Ooh, we got a glue. Not sure what happened there. Glue spillage. Okay. How do I have? Yeah, I think I like this. So I'm going to line up my side piece with my top piece. And then a nail. So I'm just lining it up flush on the edge. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's glue. Is that leaking? Okay. I always like to check to make sure all my pieces get flush before I nail the bottoms so that everything's going to line up. So that seems good. Okay. And then last piece. Check my diagonals, see if I'm square. So I'm just gonna burn an inch, start at 1, top of the tape. So my diagonal is, let's see, 29 7/8. Let's see if this is the same. Oh, I can't do it because the nail's in the way. All right, we're close. I think if the nail wasn't there. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, so I'm just gonna pound out the rest of the nails, or drive the rest of the nails. I'm gonna actually move this to the floor real quick so you won't be able to see me, but this table's way too bouncy. Okay. All right. Back. So sometimes the boards aren't perfectly flat. So I'd recommend, if you want, you can stop here and just clamp and let it dry, let the glue dry for either till tomorrow or later today. I might do my clamping as well. I'll show you how to do that. So if you just clamp your wood directly, you can end up marring the surface. So if you want, you can actually clamp a block on there first, and then so the face won't get all marked up. Actually, I'm going to do this a little bit differently because I'm going to show you how to mask. And actually, before we do this, we're going to put the hanger on the back because that's going to be easier to do now than after we have it clamped. So, always in order of operations. So this is my top. So I'm going to want to make sure I'm going to use the sawtooth hanger. You can also use a D-ring, like 2 D-ring hangers, and then have a wire in between. So I'm going to just use a sawtooth hanger in the middle. I'm going to make sure I remember what my top is. Make sure my sawtooth points are pointing down. And then I'm going to mark, I'm going to figure out where the middle of the wood is so that we're centered. So we got 16 inches in the middle is 8 inches. And then I'm going to set the hanger, the top of the hanger I'm going to set, let's go with 1.5 inches down from the top. Okay, so then I'll line up the hanger. The other thing you can do is measure how wide your hanger is and see, so you can figure out your edges. So 2.5, so 2.5 divided in 2 is 1.25. So we can go over 1.25 on each side. And then we know where the top of the hanger needs to be and the sides. You could run, I might even mark a couple more spots that are 1.5 just to get a nice line all the way across. If you have a ruler, you can use that, or just have a block of wood. This is gonna be the back, so I mean you could paint over this, but no one's gonna see all that. I'll just show you what that looks like. So that's my mark right there. Okay. So my hanger, and then I gotta find my little nails. So this is again where that small pliers will be helpful. I'm gonna try without though, see how that goes. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna use pliers because I have it out. This is just a lot easier. See, these nails are only like 1/2 inch or something like that, so pretty small. Okay, so got my hanger installed. Okay, so now I might just hold off on the clamping until I show you the masking part. So if you have not painted the chalkboard part first, like I did, so now this is ready, so we're ready to go, then you'd want to mask off your edges. So masking off basically means using tape. You'd want to have your tape and put your tape around this whole inside perimeter. If you have a putty knife that can help, you can put it in the corner to get a nice clean line, or you can just work it away around the corner. I think I'm gonna get video bound over here, like photo bound. Okay, miss. I don't think anyone's watching right now. I'm just talking to myself at this point. Anyway. Okay, so
Ooh, that looks good.
all the way around the inside. And then you can also cover the face of this if you have some masking paper or cardboard or
Hey, did you think that's cool? You wouldn't want one of those?
yeah, anything you have lying around, any material like masking paper, cardboard, regular paper. So I'm not gonna mask this off because I already did my chalkboard. So if you're here, so if you haven't done your chalkboard, do this, do the chalkboard, and then once that's dry, you can take off your masking, and then you're gonna have to mask off your chalkboard. So I'm gonna show you how to do that today since that's where I'm at. So you're gonna run on the flat part, you're gonna run all the way around. The perimeter on the flat on top of the edge of the chalkboard. So this is a tip I learned from a painter with windows, painting windows, is to do this first from a masking. Oops, it's a little bit too much. Again, I forgot to grab a putty knife, but if you have a putty knife, you can just stick it down in here and then you can really easily tear off the tape right in that corner. Have a nice edge. We'll be able to get by without it today. So many tips and tricks as you work on more projects to pick up and discover and make your projects come together a little bit easier. That's still a little long. Okay. I got to be a little long, so I had to bring it back. Okay. A little one right there too. Okay. All right, and then 2 more sides. I wonder if you can hear our chickens in the background. They're outside right now. I can hear them cheeping. Okay. Alright, so when you're done, the first step is going to look like that. So that just really gives you a nice perimeter so you don't have to worry about working with your tape and the paper to mask off the whole thing at one time. So that's like your first step. And then from there, you can roll out your paper. I might need to go the other way just to make sure I'm. This might work. Or do you go this way? I think that'll be good though. I think this will be okay. As long as I'm diligent about. If you have wider tape, you could use that. So I'm just gonna get close to where I need it to be ripped off. If you have a scissors, you could use that, or a knife. I just go like that. Go back on here, and you can fold over the ends just a little bit just to get you a nice square or close to square edge. Okay, so that. So I'm gonna do another round of tape around the perimeter. So I'm just gonna do some pieces of tape to tack it in place so it doesn't move around as much when I'm doing the next round. And then you can run your full length pieces of tape. Alright, so now my chalkboard part is maxed off. So you're going to want to paint this and remove this tape within the next couple of days, otherwise you might end up peeling off some of the chalkboard paint. So from here, you can either, the next step could be to paint this, or if you want, before you paint it, we can measure and mark out the spots for the hangers. So we're just going to use these robe hooks, so they're called. As our hangers, and I have 3 of them that I'm going to use on this project. Okay. Oh, there we go. Make sure not to lose your screws. They're very easy to just tear on you. Okay, so I've got these hooks. So I'm going to put those, they're going to get installed down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to evenly space them. So before you paint, it's a good idea to do your layups. You're going to have pencil marks on your wood, and then you can paint over them and then install these at the end. So you can get all of your holes marked where the screws need to go in, and then you can pre-drill the holes and then paint it. So we'll just do that next. So I'm going to have 3. So I'll put 1 in the center. So our center is at 8 inches. And then I'm going to put 2 on the side. So I got to figure out where. I think I'll just put, you can kind of lay them out too. It's like, okay, I have this one. And then before you actually just randomly measure, maybe just kind of look and see what looks good. I was almost just thinking about putting them at 4, but that seems like maybe too close together. So maybe we actually want them spaced out more. So when you get something that looks good, then you can get your measurement and see where you're at. Looks like I did 2.5 and about 2.5. So I'm going to make 2 more marks at 2.5 from the outside edges. Okay, so now we know how they are being spaced side to side, and so then you got to figure out how they need to be spaced, the width of the board. So if you want to just have them in the middle, see how tall these actually are on their own. It's kind of hard to tell. Looks like about 1.5 inches. A little bit more, 1.5 inches. Yeah, so 1.5". So the center, so we got a 3.5 inch thick wide board, so half of that is 1 3/4. And then we said we had 1.5". So half of 1.5" is it's getting even harder. So you can add them together. An inch would be 8" plus 5" so that'd be 13". So divide 13 into 2 would be 6.5". So then it's better to put into 16ths. So 13" is the same as 15". Putting you on the spot with math. 16ths, so times 2, 20. 6/16. Okay, that's too much for me, so I'm just gonna mark it out. I've been doing a lot of math lately. Okay, let's just say 1.5. We'll just that's closer. So 1.5, half of that's 3/4. So 3/4. That looks close enough. And 3/4. Alright, so I've got all my marks marked out, and then you can line up your hangers. This helps to have a sharp pencil, so if you have like a mechanical pencil or even a pen. Okay, and then mark in the middle where your screws are going to go. So where you need to pre-drill. Do that in all 3 of these. Okay. That's where we want all our holes. Okay, so then set these aside. I'm going to take our drill bit. Let's see, we're going to take our screw and figure out what size drill bit we need. So we want to make sure we find one that matches up so that it's the same width as the middle part, the shank, and not the part of where the threads go. So that looks pretty good. I might pick maybe something a little bit smaller. Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick that one. Okay. So then I'm gonna grab my drill, put my bit in. Center, give a nice straight hole. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure, put it on my point I need to drill, make sure it's straight up and down. Go in. Now, ideally you want to go the depth of the screw so you can set your drill bit to the depth of your screw. So mine's a little bit longer, so I'm just, when I drill, I'm not going to go quite that far, quite all the way in. So let's just double check that one. Alright, okay, so now would be the time. We got all of our holes drilled. If you want, you can sand off your marks, or you can just leave them there and paint over them. So now I would paint all of the frame, and then once that paint has dried, then go in and install your hooks. So I'll just run through that real quick. So you can go with a power drill or hand drill. I'm gonna actually, with these you're gonna want a longer drill bit, or a drive bit, sorry. So you can get around the part of the fastener, or the hanger. I might want to drill bigger holes. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna go nice and slow. Put the weight on there. I'm not gonna go all the way down the first one. I'm gonna get the other one going. Just make sure it goes in. Okay. Tighten them both. Okay. And then do that with the rest of the other two. All right. Cool. So, when you're done, so we'll just pretend this is painted. We got the hangers on, this paper's not here, and then again, the final project will look like this, something like this. You might choose different colors. And then one just last note about the chalkboard paint. So when you first have it, it's going to be really black. And so when you want to start actually using your chalkboard, you're going to want to prime it by taking a piece of chalk, and you can use like the long edge of it and just go make, like, I don't know how you say it, like rub it against like the whole face of the chalkboard area so that it gets all kind of like this initial chalky layer, and then take a damp rag just to like get rid of the excess. So right now I've done that with this one, and if you want to clean it every once in a while, you can get a wet rag, wipe it down, and then not too wet though, but just kind of a more damp rag, and then wipe it down, and then do that same, it's called seasoning process. So just have your piece of chalk, I'll just show you with a pencil, it's not chalk, but you take it on the side, you just rub it against the chalk board part, and then your chalkboard's ready to use. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next week. All right, thank you.